Hi, in this video, I want to show you how you can set up HTTP live streaming inside of Nordcraft. Now, what is HTTP live streaming? HTTP live streaming, or HLS, is a media streaming protocol developed by Apple for delivering audio and video over the internet. It's widely used for live streaming and on-demand content, particularly on Apple devices and platforms. HLS breaks the media into small, easily managed segments and uses playlists to guide playback. This allows for adaptive bitrate streaming, where the player can dynamically adjust the video quality based on network conditions, ensuring smooth playback even with fluctuating bandwidth. This is exactly what you want if you have any form of video playback in your application, because it will allow your application to have multiple videos on the application, but to still efficiently manage that. So usually when you put just an MP4 file on your application, it's going to get hot, the device, especially mobile device. Where HLS, or HTTP live streaming, will make it super performant because it splits down the video into multiple chunks that are being loaded on demand as the video progresses. It's the reason why YouTube has like this gray bar behind the red bar when the video loads, because it shows you the chunks are being loaded. Every web application that streams videos, YouTube, Vimeo, Netflix, uses this technology for playback. So if you're still using MP4 files, you're living in the past and you gotta get onto HTTP live streaming for your Nordcraft application. Today, I want to walk you through the setup step by step on how to get started with this. So let's get right started. Beautiful. So in order to set this up, we need to use a JavaScript library, because while it is natively supported on Apple devices, it is not supported on the Chrome browser and on Android devices, same as Windows. So we need to use a JavaScript library to generalize this to make sure it works with every device. So this is where HLS.js comes in. This will allow us to do exactly that. So as you can see, the setup is actually pretty simple. We just need to have a HLS, source URL, and then we can essentially create that editor. So let's get right started with that. Inside of Nordcraft, we need to create a custom component and a custom action for that. So let's start by creating this HLS video component, and I'm going to create this component. Now this component will just be a video element. So I'm going to add the HTML video element inside of here. Now we need to use this system, this API, so I'm just going to delete the source, this JavaScript API, this SDK, to set it all up. So now we need to load this script. This is the most important thing. So let's start with that. Let's create a custom action for this component, and I'm going to call this HLS.js. We need to do underscores, just like that, HLS.js. And now I'm just going to load the HLS.js package inside of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this code here that I defined with the help of dia that will allow us to load the script tag dynamically. Actually, I can improve it. I can say only load it once, and if not already loaded, set up a global variable called HLS.js or HLS.js script to be true or false if loaded, to prevent multiple loading if already done on the page and the code runs again. So we are more efficient in loading the script. So run should be written with one N, but AI is smart. It learned from all our grammar issues. So while the AI is coming up with the code, essentially what we need to do is, oh, dia is slow today, my God. But essentially what we need to do is we need to now go to this code, we need to load the script tag, and then we need to add an ID on this video element. So while dia is coming up with a more efficient code, let's already set up an ID system inside of this project. So we need to come up with a generic ID for this element. So we need to go to the component and we need to add our first attribute. That first attribute will be the ID for our video element. I'm going to give it a sample ID of video element, just like this. And now I will go on the video player and we would set that ID attribute. So I will add an attribute of ID. And now I'm just going to create a formula that will just easily allow us to set up the ID and have a fallback. So I'm going to do if ID attribute size greater than 0, then take the ID, else we will do video element as a fallback. So then we can, create this formula called video, or let's do element ID, just like that. And then I can go onto the video element and set the ID to be the element ID formula to generalize this and make it look nicer. Just like this. So now as you can see, we have our more efficient way of initializing this only if it's nicely set. So let's copy that code here. And then we're just going to go inside of our action and we're going to load the script. Just like this. So now we can get rid of the comments. Perfect. We can get rid of that. Prevent further injections. Yeah, we know that that's what it's doing. And now what we need to do in this code, we need to set up the CDN package that we're getting from NPM that they want us to use. So this will be this one. So let's copy this and let's paste this inside of here, just like this. Now, one thing that we could do to make it look or work better is we could essentially separate the concerns. We could take this code to load the script tag and create a separate action, but I just usually like to do it in one. So we have the CDN, the package being loaded here, and then we have the source, and then we have this code here that will be able to run when it's done. So now inside of here, I can run the code on this onload when it was successfully loaded the tag. So now I need to go to the JavaScript library here and copy the code that's in the script tag. So let's copy this code here and let's put this code right inside of here when it was loaded. Beautiful. So let's copy the whole code here and go to this beautiful website that lets us format JavaScript so it looks pretty. And let's copy that whole thing. Let's go back to Nordcraft and paste that inside of here. Look at that. You don't need AI if you got good documentation. Look at that. Beautiful. Not support on platforms that do not support media source when browser. This shouldn't apply to most stuff, but can be all user driven before it can play. Let's actually keep the comments. They may be interesting. So now we need to make a few things dynamic. The video ID and the video source will need to be dynamic. So what we're going to do is we are going to now go here on this argument and we're going to create a new argument. This will be the input for the custom code. So the first argument will be ID and that will be a string. So in this example here, this will be args.id. This is how I get the input from here into the code. Now we need the video source. I'm just going to do src as a string and that source will be set right inside of here. This will be args.src for source, just like this. And now we're setting the source and we're nicely going to have this set up, and this would work with iOS and Chrome. So now we can go back to the HLS video component and I will go on load and on attribute change. So I'm actually going to create this as a workflow so I can reuse it on both. So let's call this workflow initialize HLS video. Perfect. And then I'm going to go on lifecycle, on load, put the workflow in here, on attribute change, put the workflow inside of here so I can go to the workflow and set this up. So in this workflow, we're going to do project action HLS.js. I will take the element ID, and now we need to go to the attributes and we need to create a source attribute for this component. Now I'm going to add an example video. So I'm using Bunny CDN here, which is probably the cheapest way how you can store those videos. And I have an HLS video playlist set up inside of here. So I got a video. I can copy now the HLS playlist URL and I'm going to my component and putting this as a sample value inside of here. And then I'm going to go on the workflow and I'm going to set the source inside of here. So now this is targeting the ID video element. This video element has the ID of video element. So we should see some life come to this when we reload the page. As you can see, the video plays. Now we need to enable controls because, you know, we need controls for the video to actually have it play. So we now need to take a look at all the HTML controls that we need to set up and events to make this video component work so that we can customize it inside of our application. So let's go to Dia because Dia has been a great help for all of those things, and let's set up all the attributes. So we have source. Now we need to set up controls. So let's create a controls attribute here. That would be by default true on the component. Now we go on the video element and we are going to create this controls attribute and we are going to now set controls. Now, here's the thing. If controls is just set and not false, it will still show the controls and it can cause some issues. So what we need to do to make this work properly is we need to actually create a helper function. So let's create a formula and let's call that set value, or yeah, so I don't always have to do this. And let's call this value or Boolean, and that will be that will be true. And then I'm going to do Boolean equals true, and then if it's false, if it's not true, it'll be false. But actually that's too much work. I don't even need to create that project formula. Disregard the idea. I'm just going to do controls equals true. So then if it's not true, it'll be false, and then it will remove the attribute. It's important because if you just have an empty attribute, it still counts as true the way the video element works. But now if we reload the page, we should see the video and we should actually have the video playback here. Let's take a look at that.
So you're stuck with your no-code project.
Sign up for NoCode Pro Code. That's what I'm telling you in the video. But as you can see, you see how it preloads like YouTube does? You see this here? And if I click on here, you see how the video preloads again? This is HLS at its best. So you see this here, how it preloads the next chunk, and then only when I keep playing or keep going closer to it, how it moves again and loads the next chunks, how this video is being streamed and more efficient compared to an MP4 file. This is exactly what you want to do. So let's take a look at that. So now we have this set up. Now there are many more attributes to go. There are quite frankly lots of attributes. So we need to set up autoplay, right, to make this look beautiful. It's also great for background videos and all that. So let's set up autoplay. Now let's go here on the attribute. Autoplay, obviously false because I don't like jump scares. And now let's go on the video here. Let's go on the autoplay attribute. Let's do autoplay equals true. Actually, let's delete this. Copy this and go back so I can speed up. Okay, so now we have the autoplay attribute. Now the next one will be muted. So let's create another attribute, muted. Oh, no, not muted. That will be false. Okay, and I will go my video element and I'll add muted, and then I will take the muted attribute and paste. That doesn't work well. So let's take muted this way. Equals true. If it's false, it'll be false, removing the attribute, so it won't mute the video. Fantastic. Let's go back here. Let's take the next one. That would be loop. So we're going to take and create the loop variable, the loop attribute. That will be false, just as a sample. And then we go on attributes, we will add loop, we will go on fx, we will do loop equals true, and now we have that set up. So now we're going to go back here and we're going to take poster. We could set a poster. I don't have a poster yet, but we could set up the poster attribute. That would be a URL. I don't have one yet, so I'm just going to actually make sure that it's null, just like that. And then I'm going to go on the video, and I'm going to set up the poster attribute, and that poster attribute will just actually be the poster one. If it's empty, that won't be a poster. It'll just take a random poster from the video. So now, let's go back here, and now we have preload. We want to set up that attribute, and let's do preload. Default value will be auto. And now with preload, we need to be a little bit more clever. So let's set up preload. Let's do if, and we're going to do if preload. Oh, no. Usually when I type on stuff, that doesn't happen in Nordcraft, but it does. So let's go on preload. If preload size greater than 0, then if that's true, I'm going to take the preload attribute that was set on the component by you using the component. Else I will have it default to auto, just like that. Okay, now we'll go to the next one. The next one will be with hide. I'm going to stop that. I don't need that, but we need place inline. Very important for Apple devices, actually, if you want the video to jump out if it plays, which you don't want. You want place inline to be true generically. But let's do place inline. Default will be true unless it's false. So because place inline should always be on every device, unless you don't want it to, we're just going to do place inline, and I do place inline, and I'm just going to revert the formula. So I'm going to take, where did I put it? Place inline. I don't want to close that. Let's go here, place inline. Let's do equals, and I'm going to do it true, but I need to do not equal false actually. Okay, so if it does not equal false, then it will be always true. So if it's null, it'll be true. But if it's false, then it will be false, meaning it will remove place inline, so it'll play inline. It won't play inline. So look at that, place inline. Right now I have true, it'll be true. If it's empty, right? If it's empty, it'll still be true. But if it's false, it'll be false. Because we usually want to have it place inline. It's going to make it easier for you to use this. So now we need to go with the next one. That's cross origin, anonymous. That should probably be the default. So let's add that attribute inside of here, cross origin. I'm going to copy that word. You can also prevent the video from being downloaded. That is also a quite cool thing. So let's go inside of here. Let's add cross origin. Let's copy that. And let's go here, add that attribute. And then I'm going to do if, and we're going to take cross origin, if cross origin, size greater than 0, then we're going to take cross origin, else we're going to default to anonymous, just like that. Okay, beautiful. Now what we need to do is we need to go on disable picture in picture. That is also something that we can add, working on most browsers. And I can just add disable picture in picture. That's the HTML attribute. Let's actually adjust that. Disable picture in picture. I don't actually think that's a real attribute. I've never heard of that. Disable picture in picture property. That is a real one. Wow. Okay, so you can disable that. Very cool. So let's go on the attribute of the video element. Let's paste this. Let's go on FX. And let's go here and let's do disable picture in picture. And let's do equals true. So yeah, because we probably want to have picture in picture on every default video player. So that makes sense. So let's do the default value true. Let's go on the video element again. And now we have disable picture in picture equals true, then true. If it's not set, it'll be false. And we have picture in picture as our default, unless you adjust it. Okay, now we have controls list. We can set that. Default would be no download. Now, usually you want people to download the video probably. So let's just create that attribute on the on the video element. And then I will just add controls list, and I will add no download. And I'm just setting the value as is. So I'm doing controls list, no download. So now when I reload the whole thing, we should have a video player that does not allow us to download it. As you can see, no download, doesn't let us download it. And we could also disable picture-in-picture.
So your step.
And because you're using the HTML video element, with this component, because you set the ID, you can add a custom ID on top of it and put it in a component that uses player.io or video.js, or what's it called, to have any custom video player and really custom style like YouTube does. So this makes it completely reusable. And it has this fallback ID, but I would suggest you to set the ID of the video player. So now that we have this beautifully set up, we can go on the homepage and use this. So I can add my component on the homepage of HLS video, and I can take the source of my HLS playlist that you can store in your database, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to put the source inside of here. Look at that. And then I am going to add an ID of video element, just like this. And let's reload. And as you can see, I now have my video player inside of here. Now I probably want to have it playback, but let's try something cool. Let's do autoplay true, and let's do muted true, because you need to mute if you want to do autoplay. So now when I reload that, you will see I have this as a very cool video running in the background, and I probably want to set the width to be 100% to adjust it. Just like this. How cool is that? Now we got the video. It runs beautifully inside of here. Now there's one thing that we want to do to kind of like make this whole thing probably work a little bit better, because I'm seeing when I do like loop true, it like removes the whole video, which is fine because we can reload the editor, but it's just kind of like probably a better experience if we just have it set up nicer. So what I plan on doing is I want to reinitialize the video to like give it a reboot. So let's create a variable called show video. Default, of course, obviously will be true. But when I go inside of here and I will go on attribute change, before I initialize it, I need to show the video, make it false, and then do like a little sleep of 10 milliseconds, and then I will make show video true to show the video element again, and then reinitialize on success the video element. Let's see if that works. That should work to kind of like reboot the video. And then I go on the video element, I will do a show height, and I will base it on the video element. Let's see if that works. So as you can see, if I reload the page here, I got my video element, and let's say if I do loop false, it will hide the video element, show it again, but it doesn't fully reinitialize it, so that actually doesn't work. So that's just maybe like a limitation, but let's see. Let's go to the attribute change, and then this idea doesn't seem to work, so let's disregard this, put this back inside of here. Let's remove this variable here, let's kill that variable, and let's delete that one. Let's see if we just always load the script, but it shouldn't be, but it could be because Nordcraft reloads the page again, but it persists possibly on certain other elements. What happens when we are always loading this? So let's just let's copy this window function and let's make it just true. If true equals true. Okay? And now I should always load it, even if we change it. But we would just load the script tag a bunch of times. But let's see if that does it. If not, it's not that important. So let's do muted false. And now as you can see, we'll load it. So the problem is that the script tag is loading, but the editor is not letting us load it, right? Now we want it to be efficient in the editor, so I think this is completely fine. But what we could do, what I like to do, is I can create actually this attribute, this argument called editor, and I can make it an unknown, so it's a Boolean. And then I can do if editor args.editor, if that would be true, it will be true. And if it's null, meaning it won't set it, then it will take the other formula, and then I will paste this inside of here. So I have it efficient on the page, and I have it kind of like nicer on the editor. And then I can go inside of this video component. I usually like doing those things. And I can create an attribute called editor. So I'm adjusting my project based on if it's in the editor or not. Right now it's in the editor, so let's make this true. And then I will go on this workflow and I will do editor. So I will do if editor equals true, then true, else I need to have it be null, so it goes to the other value and looks based on the object. And then if I go to the home page, I'm going to just create on this page a query parameter called editor that will be true only if I'm in the editor. So I'm using the test value to actually create this environment to make it nicer in my preview. And I'm going on the editor inside of here and binding this to the editor attribute. So now when I reload it, it is nicer in the editor, but it is memory efficient and nicely set up on the page. So now I can edit the video. And then when I change this to be video element 1, maybe not working that well. Let's see. Let's go back on the code. We have args.editor. We don't have Boolean, right? So I'm doing this, or I'm taking that. Oh, let's see. Window.hls script. Actually, I think we need to do a different approach. We need to do a different approach, and then we don't need this editor stuff. It works well with upload care, but it doesn't really make sense for this one actually to improve it for the Nordcraft editor. Let's go on the home page. Let's delete the editor query parameter. Let's open this. Let's open this code here. I want to do following. When I inject the script, I want to, okay, let's copy this code, and we can't use dia, we got to use like Claude here because we need good stuff. Claude.ai. Okay, let's say I have this code and I need to add an ID of HLS script to the script tag I inject via JS, and then load the script tag only if it's not injected yet, instead of the error-prone window approach that we are currently taking. Because we're doing the same thing for Despia for some SDKs. We're not looking based on the window, because the window can be out of sync with the editor. Because the editor runs Nordcraft. In Nordcraft, the editor itself has its own state, and the iframe that runs in it has its own state. So when you make a change, it always reloads the iframe, so the window may be defined, but in it, it's not defined yet, so then just doesn't load it. So just injecting the script tag with an ID, and every time you reload it, checking if this script tag with this ID on the page exists, and then if it exists, not loading it and only loading it if it doesn't exist, is a better approach that will also work nicer in the editor. So when you're generating code for Nordcraft with the help of AI, it's not just getting code that works, it's also getting code that works nice with the editor. So let's take a look at that. So it does script ID, it gets the script, loads the script, and then existing script is just document gets by script ID, so it's checking if that exists. If script does not exist, then it's loading the script. Perfect. Okay, now we need to adjust this. Perfect, but always run HLS.js init, not just when loaded. So when it's loaded, init it, and when it's not loaded, init it, but just do not load the script twice to make it more efficient. Just like that. That's kind of like the whole idea. That we load it anyway. Okay, so const init HLS, we're initializing it, we're doing that here, and then if the script is existing, then we're loading the script, else we're doing this, but regardless on if we're running it or not, script already loaded, just initialize it, and then but if the script is existing, we should also load it. So let's say, but if script loads for first time, also run HLS.js to init. Do that on both, because we want to run this initialization to generate the HLS instance if it's loaded or if it's not loaded. We just want to make sure that it loads it, you know, when it's not loaded, but doesn't load it all the time, right? So to make it more efficient. So we're defining this const HLS that runs the function when we run it. So in here, it runs it. Oh yeah, I didn't saw that. Yeah, it runs it in here. And then if it's already initialized, it just runs it again, so it doesn't run the script tag again. That makes sense. Perfect. So let's take that here. That's a way better approach, and that should work way nicer in the Nordcraft editor. So let's go on the home page. You see we're loading it beautifully. Now when I adjust the ID video element, you will see that the video element stays the same. And I can do controls true, and now it adds controls, but the video will stay the same. So it's not just writing code that works on your live application, it's also code that makes your work in the editor easier and doesn't, you know, make you go crazy because you always have to reload the editor. You know, so it's also making sure that the code that you're writing is efficient, works nice in the editor, you avoid performance issues in the editor, because if you do just random copy pasting stuff and most of the code that AI generates is not efficient, you know, you're going to have a bad experience working in Nordcraft. I used to do that. I learned it thanks to Andreas. He showed me the memory tab and all the bad stuff that was happening on my applications on there. So thank you for that, Andreas. I learned my lesson. Now I'm building stuff efficiently. And that's how you can do that too. And you can adjust things. It makes the whole editor experience way more beautiful. And you now have HLS video streaming inside of your Nordcraft application.
You're stuck with your NoCode project.
Now that guy in the video tells you to join NoCodeProCode.com if you want to ship your applications faster. So, you know, if he's saying that must be right. So, you know, once you're already on your computer or on your phone watching this video. So go on NoCodeProCode.com. Doesn't hurt going there. And let me help you build your application faster for the small price of only $129 a month. You can get access to daily help from me in our Zoom meetings and access to hundreds of hours of recordings, templates, boilerplates, pre-made components, access to templates that I use to set up my own projects, everything that I use to move faster. You will get access to that, plus daily help from me in our Zoom office hours. The next office hours are in 18 hours. I can't wait to see you inside of there. Thank you so much for watching, and happy streaming. Take care. Bye.